So quick note before starting this video, I did want to talk about the mobile game Final Fantasy Record Keeper, an announcement that it's ending service end of September. After recording the video, I later realized that the news is only impacting the global international version of the game. From what I can tell, the Japanese version is still going to be running, but the main global one, the main one that I play, is going to be ending service the end of September of this year. I don't think it impacts the video that much, but I just want to record this quick little bit just to clarify, hey, it's only the global version, just because I think that's important to note as well. But enjoy. So today I want to talk about one of my favorite mobile games of all time. I've been wanting to talk about this game for a while. The game is Final Fantasy Record Keeper, as you can tell by the title. And after 7 years since its release, they are ending service of the game at the end of this September. So I guess now is a good time to talk about it before the game's gone for good. So I am disappointed of the news, but I do appreciate the advance notice. Even though the game is free to play, there are microtransactions, etc. So versus being within a week or something like that. So I definitely appreciate the developers for the advance notice of, hey, this game is going to end service. So, I think they're even going to end the ability to buy whatever you want to call it, the in-game currency a month before it completely is ended. So I do want to talk about the game a bit. I believe I started playing the game about a month since its release, so pretty much 7 years. And I feel like it would be too long of a video to talk about every aspect of the game, so I did want to talk about a few things, like a general overview of the game, how it improved over time, and some of my criticism about mobile gaming in general. So just kind of rant about this game and gush about it, because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, especially the old classic games too. So to sum up Final Fantasy Record Keeper, the game and gameplay is very inspired by the SNES era of Final Fantasy games. Some good examples are Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6, with its gameplay and presentation. It definitely feels like a big celebration of Final Fantasy, so that's the one thing I really love about the game. It's oozes of all this good Final Fantasy goodness. The general gameplay is classic RPG with up to 5 party characters. There's simple commands there's attack, defend, and 2 abilities that do have limited uses. A fun aspect of the game is that you can gain characters from all over the Final Fantasy games, the whole series, and it's really cool to see them in this retro SNES era pixel sprites. Especially seeing characters like Cloud, Tidus, Lightning. And also the game does have some of its original characters as well, but it's so fun to have parties you can combine of your dream team of Final Fantasy characters, all that. So I think that's one of the really cool aspect. I know there's a Final Fantasy mobile game called All the Bravest, which I heard is really bad and really money grubby. But I feel not just Final Fantasy mobile games, but mobile games in general, especially the RPG elements kind of game, I feel like Final Fantasy Record Keeper did a lot of good things and did a lot of things right, so really sad to see it go. So when the game started, it did have a limited amount of areas and dungeons you can play as. One of the main ones, the main drawing point of the game, is the Realm Dungeons. And basically you can play battles inspired by the stories and events of Final Fantasy games, and new ones are released over time, and it was really cool to see them, especially with games that came out after the SNES era. So seeing all these battles and events and story beats played in a retro pixel art makeover kind of way. It's mostly just battles, so it's not crazy cutscenes or anything like that. But it's really cool to see the sprite versions of enemies and characters from later Final Fantasy games beyond Final Fantasy VI. So other areas of the game include time-limited events based off stories, different titles in the game series, parts of the games. We can gain limited characters. You can also recruit new characters to play in the main Realm Dungeons as well. And they also had a daily rotating dungeon where you can grind for experience and resources. They did eventually update that, so instead of being a day's a specific dungeon for daily, it's all of them are available. You can choose which one you want to access, which I thought was a cool quality of life update. They did also release new dungeons and areas over time, such as Magic Site, Labyrinth, Cardia, and all that, to gain new game resources and mechanics, as well as present huge challenges and all that. I feel like it'd be too much to go over absolutely everything, but they did really expand a lot of it over the 7 years of the game's run. I also wanted to go over how the game changed and improved over time. Again, I won't be able to go over absolutely everything for time's sake, but some, is your typical upgrades over time, like breaking level caps, increasing stats with resources. Like some game resources are like magic water or record spears or magic crystals. There's a lot to the game, so there's a lot of, like, if you like to micromanage and improve your characters, like attack, even like element special boost or anything like that. So I feel like there's a lot of ways you can increase your characters. Even you can unlock equipping materia for perks as well. So they did eventually introduce exchanges for items and even for characters. So if you miss a character as part of an event, you can use these in-game resources to recruit characters that you missed or weren't able to get at a time versus time, or not be able to complete the dungeon. So I thought that was pretty cool, so you don't feel like that FOMO of missing characters from the main Final Fantasy games, especially some of your favorites that you just miss because you were late bloomer when it came to getting the game and all that. But there's also a lot of quality of life improvements over time as well. So one thing about the game that I really like that I want to mention is that the characters are pretty well balanced for the most part. Like, they do have the different roles, like being a physical attacker, using offensive magic, or being a healer. And they also have the bonuses and boosts for matching what realms they are in. Like, for example, if you're doing a dungeon or event for Final Fantasy IV, the Final Fantasy IV characters have a little boost to that. And I really like that you don't have to rely on summoning rare characters only for them to be outdated or useless later. Like, I feel like a lot of these like mobile games have like these gotcha mechanics, like, oh, this unit's really good, but then 5 months later, like, you probably never touch that unit again. So the character's like more meaningful, especially since you just unlock them through the game, so you don't really like pay to summon these characters. For the most part, they're pretty even. Like, some, you can argue, are a little less useful in terms of what kind of abilities they can use and stuff like that. For the most part, you don't have to worry about, oh, I don't need this unit. Okay, now I need this unit. So I feel like that is a very good thing about Final Fantasy Record Keeper. Also, they did have some fun collaboration events. For example, they did one with Kingdom Hearts, and also another mobile game called Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and you can actually unlock and recruit the characters from those games. It's kind of fun to see, like, Sora and Roxas, and you can use them as characters in this game permanently, so I thought that was pretty cool as well. I did also want to talk about, like, the gacha mechanic aspect of the game, as well as, like, in-app purchases, that a lot of these games, are free to play, but then they have these little gimmicks or mechanics to get money, and that makes sense. Like, hey, people work hard behind these games, so they need money. I feel like they do a really good job with it. So in Final Fantasy Record Keeper, you can use real-world money to buy what's called gems, which is like a resources. It's kind of equivalent to a in-game free resources called Mithril. In Mithril, it's limited to like daily logins or completing dungeons, including events and missions and all that. So Mithril is free but very limited, but gems are unlimited depending on how much you're willing to pay for the game. They kind of act in the same way, and there's some things you can use them for, like continuing if you like lose a battle or expand your inventory. So there's like little microtransaction, but the big, gotcha aspect of Final Fantasy Record Keeper is getting what's called relic or relic draws. So relics is basically the game's equipment. So relics can be weapons and armors, and it is important for improving your stats of your characters, even unlocking abilities called soul breaks. Kind of similar if you think like Final Fantasy VII, like limit breaks. And they also improved these soul breaks over time, which I thought was really cool. And I can go in length talking about them, but then that would make the video very, very long as well. But with these soul breaks, like, they start out like just being an additional ability, and then they kind of build to get better and better over time, such as allowing additional commands, to breaking the level cap, to allowing double cast of abilities. So it gets really crazy of how much these soul breaks goes from the early, like, first few years of the game till now. And also another thing that makes these relics valuable for drawing them is that they can give a permanent stat boost to a character. Like if the first time drawing, of course, but if you draw, you get plus 10 attack or plus 10 magic, depending on what, the character and the relic and the role in the game and all that, in terms of being like physical attack versus magic and such. So one thing I really have to give to Final Fantasy Record Keeper, because one thing I hate about doing these in-game draws or summon and all that is like saving up all these in-game resources and draw from an event banner and not get a single rare summon or rare draw. Or if you get one, it's like off banner for something you didn't even want. I feel like Pokemon Masters EX is like my go-to when it comes to like very frustrating draws and all that. Because over time, what Final Fantasy Record Keeper did is that when you do like an 11 times draw, you're guaranteed at least one rare relic, and it'll be on banner. So it's a little bit easier to chase, what relic you want, because sometimes they have really good abilities, or these equipments are, again, really valuable for, stats and all that. And even sometimes I would get very lucky. And some little background, back in the day, I used to record my relic draws for Final Fantasy Record Keeper and upload them to this YouTube channel. I did take them down, but that was kind of a fun aspect. I think other people do that as well. But they also did some really cool things, like during the holidays, there could be some massive free draws, or even like, hey, this is limited one-time draw, but you get all rare relics. So it was really fun that they kind of like mixed it up and kind of rewarded the player with all these rare relics and all that. I guess some of my criticism about the gacha relic thing is that some of these soul break abilities that they can grant your certain characters can really make a difference of being able to clear a more difficult dungeon. And especially using limited in-game resources, it can kind of feel a little bit like pay to win, just kind of how you look at it. I've been pretty lucky and fortunate. Like, I really enjoyed the game. I feel like I haven't really been forced to really spend money to enjoy the game. I did, throw in a few bucks here and there, but I feel like it, especially like seeing the improvement over time from year one to now with the gacha, the in-game transactions, I feel like they did a pretty good job with it. And also the game introduced what's called artifacts, which is also relics, like equipment, like weapons and armor that you can exchange for. And these are using like in-game resources, so you can get these really good equipment without paying a cent. And I think that's really important as well, because it kind of sucks like, oh, I can't beat this dungeon because I don't have this good equipment because I wasn't lucky enough to draw these, or I didn't spend money to do more and more and more draws. So I think that's a really good thing I really enjoy about the game. And I think that pretty much sums it up. I hope this wasn't too simplified. And again, I could go on and on talking about the game. I do really recommend, like, while it's still in service, to check out the game. And again, some criticism about, mobile games in general is like the whole gacha mechanic. Because I've seen like videos for like other games, like people spend money, like so much, like you can draw after draw after draw. And it's crazy because sometimes you'll get units and summons or whatever, and then months later they become obsolete. And then if the game like stops working, I think the what was the other one? I think it was like that's it, Sword Art Online. I think they had a game that went out of service too. I think there was even an ongoing joke, like any mobile game that collaborated with Persona 5, like in its service and all that. But it's like crazy, like people would spend, hundred. My instinct was like $100, but I'm sure that's true. Like tens or more dollars, maybe even hundreds of like, oh, you get this character, and all of a sudden the game shuts down. Like, what was it for? So I think when it comes to mobile gaming, just definitely be cautious with spending real world money. I mean, if you have the money for it, more power to you, but it just blows my mind sometimes. I think just be more money conscious myself. Like, hey, I can't spend $50, $100 on a stupid mobile game, and it gets crazy out there. I'm really sad to see this game go. Again, I recommend it because I feel like, again, a big celebration of all things Final Fantasy, especially that classic turn. They did update it, like it used to be like active time battle, but you can switch to a wait command thing as well if you wanted to. So that was another quality life update. And they did all like balance changes with characters and quality life updates. So I really enjoyed the game. Really, really sad to see it go. But definitely, I hate to say it because I know people work really hard behind the scenes on the game, but I'm probably not going to spend another cent on it, even though I didn't really spend much money in the first place. But it's like one of the things, if you know the end's coming. Again, I definitely have to give it to the developers to give us a good heads up and notice. It's like, it sucks, but just want to kind of gush about the game, but sad to see it go. So let me know in the comments what you think about the game and all that. But kind of a bummer, but what can you do? I guess there's always the pixel remasters on Steam to play, but oh well. Just wanted to say thanks for taking time to listen to my stupid little video and commentary. The best way to support me in the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. There's links in the description for social links and all that. And comment below what kind of movies, cartoons, whatever you want me to talk about in the future. And yeah, have a great day.